Good day, everybody. I hope that you are well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 2 English lesson on letters. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username, as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English language arts. We're doing grade 2. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of letters. All right. So we said our chapter is letters. Our subject is English language arts. We're doing grade 2. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of letters is greetings and closing letters. So greeting and closing letters. All right. So when we're talking about greeting and closing letters, right? Or it's a closing of letters. Then it's basically how, let's say, if you were to write a letter to a family member or to a friend, right? Then the greeting is how we start our specific letter. It's like if you send a message to somebody, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to greet, depending on who you are writing the letter to or message to. It's either going to be formal or informal. And if we look at an example, right? No, actually, before we go to our example, oopsie. A letter, right? It stands with a greeting. It starts with a greeting, and a letter ends with a closing. Any letter, even if you send a message, even if you were to meet somebody now for the first time, and the first thing you're going to do is you are going to greet somebody. So a letter starts with a greeting, and a letter has an ending. And we call that a closing. It ends with a closing. And for each one, whether it is the greeting or whether we are closing, we need to capitalize the first word and we end with a comma. So we capitalize the first word and we end with a comma. And when it comes to also our letters, right, then we should also capitalize all the proper nouns within our letter. And the proper nouns are words like and, su, whoever you are, for example, writing your letter to. If you're writing your letter to your friend Jason, then Jason needs to be capitalized. If you're writing your letter to Anna, then Anna needs to be capitalized. All right. And if we look at an example, right, of a letter, here we have an example of a letter. Our greeting, if we start with our greeting, right? Remember, you're writing a letter to someone, the first thing you do is you greet. So then it means that you're going to greet by, for example, saying, Dear Aunt Sue. And this is our greeting. This is how we end and we start our letter. Dear Aunt Sue. Dear Jason, your friend. Dear Anna, your friend. So, dear Aunt Sue, or dear your friend's name, dear Jason, dear Anna, dear That is a greeting. So we capitalize dear as well as the person's name. All right. And if we look at an example of our letter, it says we already have our greeting, which is dear and Sue. Now we're starting our letters. It says, I'm glad you could come to my party and thank you for the birthday gift. I could not have asked for a better one. Every time I see it, I think of you. So that is basically our specific letter, and the letter is addressed to Ansu, meaning you're writing the letter to Ansu. But now we also have a closing. So this is our letter thanking Ansu for being at the party and also for the gift and how much he loves the gift. Then you need to end of your lesson, your letter by saying either love and your name, or you basically just end of your letter. But love is basically the quickest and shortest one. And that is our closing or ending. All right. And once again, we see that this is letters. And when it comes to letters, our letter starts with a greeting and it ends with a closing. And for each one, both greeting as well as closing, we need to capitalize the first word and it needs to end with a comma. All right. We need to capitalize the first word, but you also need to capitalize all the other proper nouns, names of people, names of places, names of pets. You also need to capitalize that. And like I said, here we have an example of how we greet or how we start, but then also how we end. All right. So now we are going to, I don't have that. If we look at this word, dear Mr. Chang, Mr. Yang, Mr. Yang, is that, dear Mr. Yang, is that an opening greeting or are we closing? All right. Okay, so let us go to our test, right? No, it's letters. It's about letters, writing letters, starting of your letters, ending your letters. So now we need to say If we look at the wording, we need to say which greeting is correct, meaning how we start writing off a letter. Remember, we need to greet. So, which greeting is correct? Is it option one, dear Uncle Andy, or option two, dear Uncle Andy? Which one is correct? Is it option one or option two? We need to say which greeting is correct. All right. And if we were to choose the correct greeting, then yes, option one is correct. Because remember, we said that our greeting as well as our ending needs to start with a capital letter followed by a comma. So option one is correct. Well done. We need to choose the correct closing. The correct closing. Is it option one, see you soon, Mandy? Or is it option two, see you soon, Mandy? Which one is correct? So we need to choose either option one or option two. This is how closing. Is it option one, see you soon, Mandy? Or option two, see you soon, Mandy? And if we were to choose the correct option, all right. And if we were to choose the correct option, we would go with see you, Mandy. Only the first word you capitalize, not every other word. And of course, pronouns needs to be capitalized. We need to say which greeting is correct. The greeting that is correct. Is it option one, dear Mr. Yang? All right. And if we were to choose the greeting, is it option one, dear Mr. Yang, or option two, dear Mr. Yang? All right. And if we were to choose the correct greeting, and then we will go with option one, dear Mr. Yang. All right. The next one says we need to say which greeting is correct. Dear Grandma Susan. Dear Grandma Susan. Which one is correct? All right. So now we need to say which which greeting is correct. And if we were to choose the correct one, they will go with option one. Dear Grandma Susan. All right, so the first one is correct. Dear Grandma Susan. We now need to say which closing is correct. The closing. Is it option one, thanks, Frank? Or is it option two, thanks with a capital letter, Frank? We need to say which one is correct. Closing. And if we were to choose our correct closing right, of our specific letter. And then we are going to say it is option two. Because remember, we said that we when we have our greeting or we closing, and then the first word needs to be capitalized. And of course, the name of the person, because it's a pronoun, um, proper noun. So thanks, Frank, which is option two. All right. Yes, well done. The next one says, which closing is correct? Which closing is correct? Is it option one, best wishes, Becky? So we need to write the correct closing. Is it option one, best wishes, Becky? Or option two, best wishes, Becky? Which one is correct? All right. And if we were to choose the closing, they will go with option one, best wishes, Becky. All right. And if we were to choose the correct option, yes, well done. We'll go with option one. All right. So we need to now say which greeting is correct. Is it option one, dear Ed, period, comma, or option two, dear Ed, comma? So we now need to say which greeting is correct. All right, and our greeting is option two. Yes, well done. Dear needs to be capitalized, it needs to be capitalized. All right. The last one says, which greeting is correct? Option one, dear Aunt Katie, or option two, dear Aunt Katie. All right. So when it comes to closing and opening or greeting of letters, all right. And when it comes to, for example, writing letters, right? Then we need to start with a greeting and we end with our closing. And when we answer or we start, then each one we capitalize the first word of the sentence of the greeting. All right. So we start our letters with a capital letter and then it is followed by a comma. And remember, we need to capitalize the first letters, first words, and we also need to capitalize all our proper nouns. We see that letter starts with a greeting. All right. So when it comes to letters, right? Remember, as much as we are, this is about a letter that you write. So we need to have a closing and an opening. Even if you were just to have a normal a normal message that you are sending, you would also start your greeting with a capital letter. And then of course, any person's name is with a capital letter. Because it is a proper noun. If we just say girl, boy, then it is a common noun and we don't need a capitalized word. All right. And remember early on when I said that if you write a letter, you can either say love and your name. Look at even this one, it says with love and the name. But your letter needs to have a closing, either love, with love, and then we have our greeting. All right. And once again, if we look at greetings, right, with letters, right, nowadays a lot of people don't write letters. Everything is on the internet, everything is on your phone. So if we write a letter, it will be on our phone, but there needs to be a greeting and there needs to be an ending. You cannot start the letter and just go straight to the point. All right. So once again, before we end off, our lesson starts with a greeting and our lesson ends with a closing. When it starts with a greeting, you need to be like, hello, dear, And if we end off our lesson with love, your grandson or your granddaughter, All right. So this is now. All right. So we said that when it comes to letters, we have an opening, we have a greeting, and we have a closing, right? We have a greeting and we have a closing. With our greeting, our greeting needs to start with a capital letter and it ends with a comma. All right. So this is the end of our lesson on letters. Thank you very much, grade twos, for joining the class. So till next time, this is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, guys. You must have a good evening or good day. Goodbye.